This podcast is brought to you by Rebecca Cassells of the Rising Dawn series. Do you like violence? Do you like smut? Are you tired of the stereotypical novels of werewolf romance out there and want something a little bit different? Then pick up Sparked Revolution, Book 1 in the Rising Dawn series by Rebecca Cassells. Available on Amazon, in Kindle, and paperback. You too can become a sponsor by heading on over to patreon.com/stories, the true and the fictional. Hello guys and welcome to another episode of Stories, the True and the Fictional. We've got a real great guest coming on, but before we bring him in, Ryan, you're still living the dream.
Still living the dream every day, every single day. I'm living the dream. Even when I'm dreaming, I'm living the dream. So I'm doing good.
Fantastic. Well, guys, check out our sponsors, Rebecca Cassells, Martin Kearns, for your paranormal romance and your urban fantasy. My book's coming out in about 1st of June, so keep an eye out for that. And yeah, now that the promo's done, Matt Nagin, how are you?
I'm doing wonderful. I'm connected to your side of the planet, man. Alabama to Australia. This is the world tour. Everybody on planet Earth, tune in.
Yeah.
All right, because we're making it happen.
Yeah, we're in the future, so if you want to know anything,
yes, it's like that Back to the Future episode,
yeah,
where he's got all the horse races and the stock
Yeah.
market. He knows that is true, man. I got to get an Aussie contact. Tell me if the market's going down,
Yeah.
and if I should put it all in Tesla. Let's go.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, our postal service is so bad that by the time we send it to you, it'll be the past, so it wouldn't count.
Yeah.
You know?
True. You guys we had Pony Express. That was our old school post office. I don't know if you guys are still on ponies down there but yeah, so homing pigeon. I don't know how you guys do it over there. I know.
We just put it in the pouch of a kangaroo and send it that way.
Oh, I knew that was coming. And then you massage it with some emu oil, and then you send it off or something. All right.
That's it. Well, for those who don't know, who is Matt Nagin?
I am a comedian and also a writer. From New York. I live in Alabama now, and I've been down here 3 years. And I've done something as well, so I'm kind of one of those multi-verse kind of people. I'm on all different registers, so yeah.
Cool. Well, seeing as you are a comedian, look, I'll be asked this question first. Like, do you do much traveling? Because
I do.
Because I've heard this from other comedians that if you write comedian as your profession and you go through the airport, the people that check it always ask you to tell them a joke. Is that a true thing?
That is sometimes. So I don't always write that because my background's teaching writing, and I've done a lot of other jobs because of I like to avoid all that rigmarole. And then he's checking my punchlines. I once had a guy also write poetry, and he's reading my poems aloud. I don't understand this. I'm like, yeah, maybe that's why you're working at TSA, buddy. But he didn't like that. And then he got the rubber glove out. But anyway, that's another story.
Yeah.
So I try to avoid that usually going into that. I don't love when I've had so many people say, "Oh, you're a comedian. Tell me a joke." Usually I do an old joke because it's a lot of my stuff. It has a performance aspect, which isn't the same one-to-one. It's there is a stage, there's lights, there's a recreation thing. So I end up doing like street jokes or something if they're telling off stage a lot of times. But that is true. Yeah. True.
Yeah. Cool. How are you feeling today, Ryan? Which icebreaker you want to take first?
Okay, so I'm going to mix it up. You can take the first one. I'll take the second and fourth one, please.
Sweet. We're going to dive straight in now. Because you're a comedian, we expect some great answers.
All right.
But if you could get rid of one thing in the world, what would it be? And please, no Miss Universe answers. All right.
Well, okay, one thing in the world. How about? You know what's coming into my head? Kangaroo pouches. That is so weird. I think we just talked about that. And my brain is wired.
Kangaroo pouches because that's how they raise their kids. So we can't get rid of them.
Yeah, true. But I mean, those kangaroos, the way they're just boxing you with those. We don't like them over here. But anyway, they have them at the safari. I'm trying to think, what would I get rid of? Huh. I think I would have to say the obvious one, death, because that puts a damper on all my parties and stuff, when you start thinking about
Yeah.
death. If you could take a flight tonight and there was no chance of death, it would be a lot more fun, I
Yeah.
can't sleep on flights because I think it's going to crash.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I think that's the number one for me. Let's cut out death. Let's go Brian Johnson style. I know he's got that Netflix movie, How Not to Die, but I don't want to do all the stuff he's doing. I don't want to eat
Yeah.
elderberry all day
Yeah.
and, work out 8 hours a day and never have sex and live, just live like a dorky vegan lifestyle. No, I want to have fun and do coke and bang hookers and then still live forever and eat terrible processed food. So if I could get that, now we're talking. Let's go.
Sounds like you want
I
to get rid
like
of
that. I like
consequences.
that
Yeah, get rid of all consequences and just have some fun,
Yeah.
just because it's a little bit of an overhang. Woody Allen always talks. It's always like you're in the back of your mind. You're like, damn, man. Well, wait, maybe I'm gonna die today. I was having a
Yeah.
great day,
Yeah.
and then you have that great day. Maybe you go fishing, you see a sunset, you get a hand job in the bathroom, whatever it is, and you take some mushrooms, and then you're like, damn, everything was great, but hey, I'm gonna die soon. That just ruins
Yeah.
it, man.
Yeah.
I like
Yeah,
that.
right.
I like that. That's definitely not that's definitely a selfish answer, but you're thinking about everyone. You're like, no one's gonna die today. No one's gonna
Yeah,
die. You completely get rid
exactly.
of all death. So selfish but not selfish. So it's a bit of in between.
True, because it's a buzzkill for everybody. I'm just saying, there is a universal, but you know what? Then there is a good value to it because if you had that, what people say, if you had unlimited time, nothing would have any meaning,
Yeah.
and you kind of get lazy and stuff. You're like, I could do it, next century or whatever. Well, I'm gonna clip my toenails. Nah, next
Yeah.
century. Well, wait till Paul Revere comes back or whatever. So yeah. I gotta
love
laugh. All right, let's go. I'm trying here.
it.
These are
I
some
love it. I
random
love
questions
it.
you guys got. You guys got some random questions. I know down under the Blue Mountains, you got some. Yeah, that's good though. I like them. I like them. All right.
But
Okay, question number 2. So this is obviously something very personal, so our viewers can get to know you. So what's something on your bucket list? What's something you want to do before you die, providing that death is still with us after you've already gotten rid of it?
Does it have to be legal?
No, not at
no.
all.
Not at all. Okay, if there was no consequences, imagine no one could get hurt. On the top of my bucket list would be throwing a midget into the Grand Canyon. You know what I mean? That would just be fun to chuck one. Now I wouldn't really do this, but I mean they're just aerodynamic and stuff. I would love to. Okay, so no, I'm just saying that would. Okay, now bucket list. I don't really have a bucket list in a serious
Okay.
case, and I'm sorry for all the midgets. I hope I didn't. You're just aerodynamic, and nothing against you in particular, but what would I do? Honestly, I would like to go to one of those frozen tundra places like North Pole or Antarctica. Okay, chill with the penguin. Maybe we smoke a bowl together, walk around the glacier, just kind of vibe out there. I know it's going to be cold, but not many people have been to Antarctica. And I would like to just chill, like have an awesome time. Doesn't have to be like an orgy or anything, just like a fun Antarctica. And not National Geographic, because that one I looked into it. It's kind of corny. I want to have like a fun Antarctica adventure.
Yeah. I think penguins always fascinate me because I don't know if you know, we had one of the biggest in Melbourne down here in Australia. We had one of the biggest emperor penguin chicks born. It was actually twice the size of its parent. And when emperor penguins are actually born, they look nothing like what they're going to look like. They look like they're fluffy and brown. And this one was called Pesto, and it got so famous that it was all over Facebook, all over TikTok, everything, all over the world. It was actually the biggest emperor penguin chick born, I think, in something like 150 years. And he looks so cool, man. I always would love to hang out with the penguins, so I'm on board with that for sure.
Oh, 100%. A penguin named Pesto? Come on, bro. You know, that could be on your tombstone. He hung out with the penguin named Pesto. I don't know what an emperor penguin is, but it sounds royal, man. It sounds
Yeah.
like it sounds, it sounds like a Chinese man would have an emperor penguin, I suppose. You know,
Yes.
they like their emperors. But
They're
wow,
they're the biggest penguins on record. So they're the large ones. So if you ever watch, like if you ever see National Geographic or some David Attenborough documentary, whenever you've got the big, really big ass penguins, they're the emperor penguins. They're huge. They're probably about, I don't know, probably about 4 feet tall.
Got you. Believe it or not, we've got a few of those over here in Alabama too. Okay. And they
Really?
frequent the Golden Corral buffet. So come on down. I mean, some call them truckers. You call them emperor penguins, but I'm telling you, they're built. I don't know if you've seen the pictures. Wow. Okay. So now that was just a bad joke, but the people here are, okay. I saw March of the Penguins. I love that one.
Yeah.
It was a little corny, but I love watching penguins. I'm a penguin man.
Yeah,
I just
definitely.
think penguins, are cool. So,
Awesome. Well, I love that answer. That's good.
Cool. Let's move on to something that's in your wheelhouse, probably. What is the greatest sitcom ever made?
the obvious one is going to be like a Seinfeld, but I would put I Love Lucy up there too, though. That was
Hmm?
such brilliant acting. Lucille Ball, every episode, just the physical pantomime, and then it had a compelling plot. Uh, I mean, I'm no expert on it, but I would definitely put Seinfeld and I Love Lucy would be two of my top. A lot of people say honeymooners and stuff, but um, hmm, yeah, I'd say those are probably two of my. And Curb Your Enthusiasm, if you call that a sitcom, I don't know if you really
Yeah.
call that a sitcom. There's no laugh track,
Yeah.
but
It doesn't need to have a laugh track. I mean, like that was kind of evolution. Oh, like Scrubs is a sitcom, and it's one of my favorites. There's no laugh
true,
track.
true, fair, fair, fair. Okay, because I didn't know if you meant like old school. Curb is almost like half hour
Yeah.
it's a half-hour comedy series, but I don't know
Yeah.
if it's called sitcom per se, but it's on the borderline.
Yeah.
Uh, so I, it's always. I mean, I think with Seinfeld, the writing was so brilliant, and then the acting,
Yeah.
and that I got to put that up there. Even though it's an obvious one,
Yeah.
and the characters and just the whole way it was put together. So, how about you guys? What do you think? It's a tough one.
Yeah. No. Well, me, Scrubs. Scrubs is my favorite.
Right.
Yeah, for me, it's I guess I grew up in the era of, Scrubs and Friends and Seinfeld.
Right.
Well, I
Right.
definitely agree with you about Seinfeld. The writing on that show is just phenomenal. I don't think I've watched all of it. I don't think I've seen a bad episode.
Right.
So Seinfeld, 100%, I can get behind. Scrubs as well. Jamie got me into Scrubs when we first met.
Hmm. Hmm.
It's phenomenal, but I would
True.
say my favorite of all time probably have to be How I Met Your Mother. Um,
Oh, interesting.
that was probably one of the first sitcoms I watched that didn't have the laugh track,
No,
aside from
it
Scrubs.
does. It does. You just
Oh,
don't
it
hear it.
does. Oh, there you go. It's been that long since I've watched it. It does have the laugh
It's
track. But
because
yeah,
you're
How I Met
laughing.
Your Mother. How I Met Your Mother is probably my favorite of all time. That's my go-to. I'll
Right.
rewatch
Oh,
it.
those are great choices. If you want to go by what made me laugh the most, it
Mhm.
wouldn't really be a sitcom, but it's half-hour comedy of anything I've ever watched. I have to say it's the Ali G show.
Oh,
That's
yes,
All
yes,
right.
yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
just in
Yeah.
terms of like hard laughs where I'm like holding my side.
Yeah.
I mean, there was points where I was crying of laughter. Maybe I'm jaded because I'm into the industry somewhat now, but especially back then, I don't remember laughing as hard at any other thing. Just
Mm.
I don't know. It just was funny, the juxtaposition with these politicians and him in that character and the crazy things he was saying, and Borat and all the characters, Bruno. So
Bruno, I love Bruno. Bruno. I think that was a movie. Obviously I love the Allergy show too. So great pick. And I think the good thing about Sacha Baron Cohen is he just doesn't give a shit. He will do anything and everything. He doesn't care about restrictions. He doesn't care about, anything, which is just absolutely amazing. But I tell you, Bruno is probably the movie that I went and saw at the cinema that got the most laughs in the cinema. It was probably Bruno. I think
100%.
that's absolutely phenomenal. So yeah, definitely get behind the Ali G show for sure.
I saw that one in the cinema too, and it got huge laughs. But actually,
Oh,
and when I saw Borat in the cinema, I thought that maybe got more laughs. But the original Borat, but both of them, at least the one when I saw, but both were, I love them. I don't know. I'm a fan of whatever he does. And then the Showtime show he did, I forgot the name of it. The other one too was really good too. The more recently. Um, but so yeah,
100%. I
I
don't
put
think
that.
anything that he's in, I will watch automatically, regardless of what it is, because I really have a lot of respect for him. And he's one of the few, like I said, one of the few actors and comedians that just doesn't give a shit. He will just,
Uh-huh,
they'll tell him you can't do something. He's like, well, I'm going to do it. So 100% I'll get behind
uh-huh.
that for sure.
You know, he was in
True.
Les Miserables.
Really?
Really?
Yeah, with Hugh
I didn't know
Jackman.
that. I didn't know.
And he was really good in that.
Wow.
Like he was
Wow.
comedic, but he was toned down comedic because
Well, that's one I have to
Right.
definitely watch because I haven't seen that one. So
well,
there you go.
we'll buckle in. It's 3 hours. It's a musical, so
Yeah,
Yeah.
I haven't seen the movie. I mean, I saw the play back on Broadway and
yeah,
whatnot, and but I'd like to see that too. Actually, see him in a
yeah,
more serious role. I forgot there was one other movie I saw him when he was somewhat serious. Can't
yeah,
remember right now what it was. But no, he's an incredible actor. I
yeah,
I just respect how he satirizes American culture and he puts
yeah,
himself on the line in these crazy scenarios.
yeah,
I mean, I'm Jewish, and one of my favorite things was when he was in the South and he's doing that throw the Jew down the well, and everyone's chanting around and they're all like totally on board with it. The whole
yeah,
crowd is cheering. We
yeah,
won't kick him in in the
yeah,
horns or whatever. And
yeah,
everyone's, you know, it's hard to get everyone on board with that. Well, maybe
yeah,
not that hard. I am in Alabama, but you know what I mean.
yeah,
It's you got the footage, and it's hilarious satire.
yeah,
Or that with the one when he did in Showtime show. I forgot what that show was called, where he told the people in this small town in Arizona that he has plans to build a mosque right in the center of town. And they're all white redneck people. And he shows this huge mosque with all the areas, and they start freaking out. We don't
yeah,
we don't want to take that going to
yeah,
that Muslim and then they just get more and more racist and stuff. And so he's
yeah,
highlighting that in a subtle way, which is
yeah.
great, and it's funny too.
Yeah. Well,
Oh,
that's
I
what
love it.
that's what comedy's about, pushing boundaries. You gotta. It's
Mhm.
otherwise it's just safe is boring.
100%. Definitely.
Life is too
Definitely. I
serious at
mean,
the moment anyway. We need stuff that makes us laugh. You know what I mean? Like
right,
everyone just takes
right.
themselves way too seriously.
100%. In this culture right now, there is
Yeah.
victim mindset, and people are going their little temper tantrums because their
Mhm.
feelings got hurt, and
Yeah.
they go on. But everyone kind of gets on board with it. Although I think it's changed a little now. People are, at least where I'm at, there's a pushback, and
Yeah.
people
Yeah.
are
No.
hearing some more truth. Maybe not in movies as much or Netflix or big budget stuff, but in the comedy world,
Yeah.
people seem to want a little rawness
Oh, definitely.
because it's lacking. It's lacking in the main media.
Yeah.
And that's why I think comedy's having its day right now.
Oh, 100%. Look, I absolutely I watch a lot of comedy in terms of, just on Facebook, on TikTok, and a lot of of the bigger comedians as well are starting to put a lot more stuff on there because it just we need more laughs in the world. We
Mm.
need, you guys as well as being a writer, a comedian to me a God's gift because we all go through some really tough shit in our lives, and the only thing that gets you through is laughter. And especially in the current climate that we're in, if you can take yourself out of real life for say half an hour or an hour and watch a comedy special or go out and watch a comedy show, then just for that 1 hour or half an hour, you don't think about any of the problems or any of the bad stuff that's going on in this world, then that's, to me, is worth its weight in gold. So I have nothing but respect for comedians, and you guys are freaking awesome.
Wow, that was very thoughtful of you. Thank you. I hope you're not
No problem.
just patronizing me or whatever, but I appreciate it. No, it was very well said, and I appreciate it. But most comedians are just woo-hoo. They're not really in there. They're not really good Samaritans. They're just woo-hoo, trying to focus and keep the gun out the mouth. But then it may have an ancillary benefit, because just like it could help someone else, it could help them. Yeah. So that's the weird dynamic of it. But I do think I'm glad it has a purpose. Or if it helps even one person, you do a show and it helps one person have a little bit of a better day. Hey, that's something you did. It's not Mother Teresa kind of crap, but it's some small little difference, and that's all we can do in this world. Try to make the world a little bit better. We can't really change the whole thing. Oh, it's actually
100%. No, and that you couldn't have said it better. I honestly, as I said, you guys are amazing at what you do, and I'd be very lost if we didn't have comedy in this world. So thank you very much for that. And I'm not just blowing smoke up your ass. I truly believe that.
Oh, thank you.
No worries. All right, next question on the icebreakers. What is your zombie apocalypse plan?
It's funny because in my book, Do Not Feed the Clown, I have one of the 34 pieces is about zombie apocalypse insurance that they're selling it, at Lloyd's and this company and why and how you should prepare and everything. And it's been a while since I wrote that, so I forgot. But I am very poorly prepared. If there's a zombie, I might just say, take me. I got a gun. I do have a gun. It's 22, so my friends say it's a lesbian gun. But, do guns kill zombies? I don't even know that. Like, I'm not really.
You gotta hit him in the head. You hit him in the head.
You hit him in the head? Okay. I've thought about it. What I think I would do, I'm not sure, is, okay, I get in my gun, get in my car, and I drive down to the nearest port, okay? I find a cruise ship, all right? I get on the cruise ship, or I pay the guy to get on the cruise ship. Or hopefully, if I don't have to, I blow the guy to get on the cruise ship. Somehow, I get on that damn cruise ship. You know what I mean? I'm going to be desperate because the zombies are coming. So I'm on the cruise ship now. Let's just assume somehow I get on that motherfucker. Excuse my language. I don't know if I'm allowed to curse on this.
No, just have at it.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm on that bitch, right? And I climb. If I have to fucking free ball up that shit and just boom, whatever it is, I get on the cruise ship. I tell Captain, get out to sea. Okay. Now here's why this is brilliant. A, you're on a boat. I don't think zombies are great swimmers. I don't know. I'm not sure if they're like got Michael Phelps kind of energy. You know what I mean? I never seen in the movies. They're usually landlocked, those motherfuckers. So what I would do is get up on that boat, get out to sea, okay, and now you're on a cruise. On a cruise, you got a lot of food, right? You got food that can last you probably 2 years. Okay, it's not the greatest. It's cheap buffet food and stuff, and you get that norovirus. But you can survive, man, for probably a couple of years, especially if it's only you and the captain. He's making you blow him, but at the end of the day, you're surviving. Land ho, or I'm the ho, whatever. You know what I mean? So that's what I think I would do. I would get on a boat, eat the food. I'm the one-man band. I could go to the casino all night, play myself, and deal myself. I don't know. I think it'd be pretty cool.
Good answer.
I like it. I think that's one of the best answers that we've had on this podcast so far. So I really like it. And I like that you're willing to do whatever it takes. Even if you have to give that captain a blowjob every day for the rest of your life, you're still alive and you're still doing a lot better than the people that are on the street out in the
exactly. Exactly. At desperate times call for desperate measures.
Exactly.
It's like those. Yo, how about you saw that movie Alive, right? Where the plane crashes in the Andes and they have to eat each other. Yo, that freaked me out, bro. Like that when I saw that, I'm like, yo, when I fly now, I want to pack A1 and George Foreman grill. You know what I'm saying? Because if I gotta eat a passenger like you, I want to taste it. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to eat. I want to eat you raw. No offense to you, bro.
No,
You know
not
what I
at
mean?
all.
Like, I want you cooked and all right. So anyway, you got to be prepared. I think that's the point of this.
I like it. I like it.
All right, the final icebreaker. Bill and Ted arrive outside your house in their phone booth time machine and say, "Whoa, dude, Rufus asked us to give you a free ride in our phone booth time machine." What do? Where do you go?
I have to say, I think a bit of an obvious one. Okay, because I think in my heart, I'm a secret decadent. I'm not going to go with too obvious and say kill Hitler. Okay, because there's another Jew that'll do that. You know what I mean? Anyway, it's kind of boring. It's too trite. So what I think I'd do, I'm thinking Caligula. Okay, Caligula, as you know, he was that Roman Empire. I guess right before Nero, but when Rome was basically collapsing and burning. But before that, he had a wild lifestyle. He had orgies. He had all these servants. He had the drugs, the drinking. I mean, he was just living la vida loca. He's a emperor of Rome, and he's just having a ball while the whole fucking shithouse goes down in flames. So I think that have you seen the movie with Malcolm McDowell? You ever see Caligula? Holy cow. That's what got me into it. I was like, this guy is disturbed. This is more disturbed than A Clockwork Orange with Malcolm McDowell. But at the same time, you're like, damn, bro. I could just have that for like 10 minutes. That would be the greatest day of my life, bro. Anyway, so.
I like it. I like it. That's a quality answer.
But it's selfish. It's definitely selfish. I could have saved all my 6 million of my people. I'm like, forget about it. Let me just have an orgy with some Roman chicks. It's pretty bad in its way. It's way too selfish. But I'm being honest. You said if I could do it for me, okay.
Yeah, for sure.
We're all about selfish answers,
That's it.
Yeah, okay.
That's it.
Yeah.
Because when we first started these icebreakers, and the first question, if you could get rid of one thing, what would it be? Everyone was saying the same thing, and I appreciate it, but they're like, we'll get rid of war, we'll get rid of famine, we'll get rid of cruelty to animals and all that. So we just decided to say everything's perfect. There's no war, there's no cruelty to animals, there's no anything. So be selfish, and then that's when we get the good answers. So that's why we like selfish.
Interesting.
Well, that's the icebreakers done. So let's get into why you're here. This podcast is brought to you by Martin Kearns and the Valor of Valhalla series. In the battle between two ancient evils, can one naive young man become the last hope against powerful creatures of legend? Beneath the Veil is the gripping first book in the Valor of Valhalla dark urban fantasy series. If you like reluctant heroes, infernal myths, and bloody epic clashes, then you'll love Martin Kearns' formidable foray into the unknown. So head on over to readkearns.com and grab yourself a copy of Beneath the Veil today. Tell us about your writing journey. How'd you get started?
Excellent. So the writing journey is I first started writing when I went to Penn State summer program when I was in high school, and I took a poetry class. You were able to take a college level class for a summer program, and I took a writing class, poetry writing or creative writing, and that's what got me started with it. Then by the next year, I was somehow watch that movie. Then what got me into it more was that movie, The Doors, but Rip Val Kilmer, the great one, who just passed on. And that movie hit me so hard. I tell you guys, not as a joke, but as seriousness, I wanted to be Jim Morrison. Okay, I really got it in my head. Everything he was doing, I was doing. I was dropping acid, he's dropping acid. You know what I mean? Like he was trying to test that, so I'm like, all right, I gotta test that, man. You know what I mean? I would do my own way. He was hanging out a window. I didn't have a chick trying to blow me in. I would just hang out the window or drive in my car in the wrong way with my eyes closed. I'm like, yo, I'm testing dead, bro. I mean, it was stupid. In retrospect, I could have killed someone, but at the time, I was a nut job, and that got me into. So I would take acid and just fill up books with songs and stuff because I thought I was Jim. Just that's what he did. So my songs were not as good. They're like go to the grocery store, buy more applesauce. Like it wasn't really. It was more like a to-do list and shit. And and I thought everything we were doing was like so brilliant. I recorded. This is how old I recorded on a boombox. This is way before phones.
Oh
We
wow.
recorded our trip with my friends. And again, I thought everything was so brilliant that I was saying. But when you play it back the next day on acid, you're like, "Yo, bro, the universe is really big, man. It's like it's crazy, bro. It just keeps getting bigger." And like it was just like stupid stuff like that that was not at all edifying to anyone. I was embarrassed. I burned those tapes. And but that got me into writing, and I've been writing in some sense ever since, on and off. Yeah. So I got 5 books now, and I got a few more I'm trying to put out, but 5 are available. And then I even got this. This isn't one of my books, but this is the first thing I ever put out, like a self-published pamphlet thing.
Oh, awesome.
I just happen to have it here. From the fridge to the Cracker Jack box. I think it's available on Amazon, but this is so old. This is before Amazon. You had to go to Kinko's and put this together. It was
Oh wow.
a like a pamphlet. I only had certain of them. And then after that, I got to books. I left my books over there, but I could go get one. But this is one of mine. Do Not Feed the Clown. And there's other ones. I got 4 other books. So that one's a humor.
Yeah. So what's your writing process like? Because like as a comedian, I'm sure your mind wanders a lot. And like how do you focus? Like can you focus?
That's a problem for me. I got bad ADD.
Yeah.
And I'm a bit of a all over
Yeah.
the place, and maybe autistic, maybe just full blown retarded. So you choose your mind because that's my problem with chicks. They think I'm autistic and creepy. You know what I mean? That's a bad combo. That's a terrible. That's chick kryptonite when they think you could be onto cat predator and love on the spectrum. You know what I mean? That's really they don't want a Rain Man who looks like he sets off Amber Alerts. You know what I mean? So, 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 okay. But I lost my track. Oh yeah. So how do I focus? I said I usually, if I'm writing a novel, which I have 2 that I'm trying to put out that are mostly done. I haven't been doing it recently. I just set a time and I try to do it, 5 days a week or certain amount, like an hour early in the morning. And so if you continue regularly, you can get it done. But yes,
Yeah.
for me, shorter um, is easier. That's why that humor book has 34 separate pieces. And the storybook that I just published, the Book of Outcasts, is 14 stories. So they're not
Okay.
that long.
Yeah.
A story you can do in one setting. But even with a longer project, what I find is if you look at it as chapters, as almost as separate, they're not separate stories, obviously, they're
Yeah.
continuous, but separate contained entities, you can break it off that way by
Yeah.
breaking it down. Here's this chapter, this,
Yeah.
and you can build it. So that's how I do it. It's not easy for me. It doesn't come naturally to focus, to be honest with you.
Yeah. So you probably never write like a 300,000 word science fiction fantasy
No,
or something, It's just,
no,
you know,
no, no. But what's
yeah.
interesting is I do have a sci-fi comedy. I can't talk
Yeah.
too much about it, but that's one of the novels I'm hoping to put out.
Cool.
And that took me years to get done. It's basically close to done. I'm tweaking little things, but so I do like sci-fi, but no, nothing that crazy or that
Yeah.
long. I try to
Yeah.
keep it, you know, uh, contained.
Yeah.
Right. Well,
Comfortable.
comedy, we're really used to that. Actually, this storybook, some of the stories are a little bit long. There's some real short ones, and there's some that are e- even for today's attention span. Now people are putting in books. I notice more and more shorter chapters.
Yeah.
That's very like a trend over time because people know they don't. I don't know if you like Matt Haig, but like the Humans and stuff. I just read that one. You know that book? I don't know.
I
But
I've heard of it. Yeah.
he's real popular. But if you see how short the chapters are,
Yeah.
um, they'll run like three book pages or three, four, and he keeps it going that way. And so that is another trend I see. I think it's like the TikTokization of
Yeah.
humanity or something.
But it also feels like for the reader, that they can get more quicker. Like, they feel like they're moving quicker along, you know? It's like, oh, it's just that.
True,
Oh, just a few more pages. Oh, just, and you can just
true.
keep it rolling.
And for me, I got to be honest. Sometimes what I'm trying to say, too short doesn't work. So
Yeah.
that's why some of the stories I kept longer. Like there may be a certain degree of complexity that requires longer, and if that's the case, I'm going to make it the length
Yeah.
that it requires. And it tells me rather than I tell it. You kind of feel it out, But that's usually how I do it with a story in particular. It kind of, yeah. Sometimes you want to cut it a little bit, but you basically the development sometimes requires more for whatever reason. That's what I found.
I'm actually on your Amazon site now, looking at your collection of books, which is quite extensive. I'm very interested, especially I do want to. I'm going to get a copy of the Book of Outcasts, and
Oh, sweet.
Do Not Feed the Clowns looks really good as well, that you mentioned before.
Oh yeah, Do Not Defeat the Clown is a humor book. So you
Yeah.
guys would really enjoy that. That's just pure comedy, little short pieces about contemporary topics. I give you an example. You remember Harvey Weinstein
Mm-hmm.
was the film mogul. We got Me Too'd and for sexual harassment. And in one of the stories about him, he was kind of coming on to this woman at this nightclub in Soho called Socialista when he masturbated into a potted plant. This is true. You can look up. This happened. So what I did is I gave a blurb from that, and then I wrote a story from the point of view of the plant. Okay, and 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 basically the plant doesn't get a lot of love, and she wants to get ahead in her own film career, and she's kind of into that was her glory when he busted a nut all over her, and and
Oh,
she's trying to get with Harvey and her love, and she's neglected, and she's jealous of other plants that have been
oh
in
my
big
God.
films and stuff, and stuff like that. So, so that's like an example. There's all kinds of. Are you guys religious or not? I'll give you another one. I don't know how religious you guys are.
I'm religious, but I can take it.
You can take it, all right?
I'm
Because
not religious at all, so it's fine.
all right. No one. Okay. Because example is I have another one that's called Yelp reviews of the crucifixion. Okay,
Oh, okay.
and yeah, so it's basically people, that were there watching Jesus get crucified, and they're criticizing, for example, various aspects like it's not violent enough, or they're comparing it to other kinds of executions, and then they get into the nitty gritty of it. Like apparently in this story, Jesus takes a crap while he's up there, and they're, I know they're very, they don't like the smell, so they have all these problems with how he was crucified, And anyway, it's a wild one.
No.
It's, if you read the reviews on that one, people like it, but I do push the boundaries on that one.
Yeah.
I really push the limits of taste, of good
Yeah.
taste. But I
Oh
think I
man.
find to kind of play the line.
Yeah.
I can't
Well,
explain how
the,
when you
the
read
life
it.
of Brian did it very well. So you've
Oh,
seen the
unbelievable! Yes,
yeah,
that was one of the best movies of all time. Really,
yeah,
Monty Python. They're kind of geniuses, no?
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, based on those two stories alone, I'm
He's just
definitely
bought it.
picking it up right now as we speak.
I
That's just
appreciate that.
phenomenal.
I do appreciate that. And the Book of Outcasts is my newest. If you give me 1 sec, I'll just go
Yeah,
get it.
just
You want
go
me to
grab
show
it.
you the
Yeah.
cover?
Yeah, sure.
Oh, hold on a sec. Back in action. Here it is. I just want to show it in case you guys want to take a look. It's a
Yeah.
cool cover. Look
Yeah.
at this. You got alien ship. You got the pyramid because there's a game show involving a pyramid and there's an alien story. And the crocodile, there's one of the characters gets fed to the crocodiles on a drug deal gone bad. It's a crazy. And here, roulette is a gambling story about a compulsive gambler. So yeah, roulette with. So that's it. I love this cover design. He did a great job, I think. And it's 14 stories. Now this one it has a lot of comedy in there too. but it's a little bit more literary, a little bit more, serious. Like that one is just fun comedy, which is good. This one has comedy, but it's got a little more substance to it,
Yeah.
So I'll give you an example on one on this, if you don't mind.
Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
There's a story in there about AI. Okay, I'm sure you're familiar with Elon Musk's Neuralink, but it's this company where they put a chip in your brain, and in theory, it can help people with muscular dystrophy or other problems, which sounds noble and beneficial. But this looks at the dystopian aspect of that, because in this story, and there's people saying this may happen. So it's not even really sci-fi. It's a little sci-fi. You're going to need to get that chip to essentially like a computer in your brain to compete in the workforce at some point. Because if everyone else has that and they have all the memory of everything in existence, right, and they have that ability to speak every language, how are you going to compete with them in the workforce? Why are you? And in this world, the character doesn't want to do it because of, and most of the other people have already done it and they're convincing him, and he suffers increasingly worse consequences, him and the few people that don't. And it's what happens to him when he decides to not get his brain implant, basically. So yeah, it's not a barrel of laughs, but it's interesting, I think. And it's kind of like dystopia. There's a bit of satire in it and stuff like that. So
no, well, it sounds like the comedian thing to do. Like, you got to look at, classic ones. Robin Williams, hilarious guy, brilliant actor, can play it straight. Same with Jim Carrey. Same with Adam Sandler, even. So you got to do it.
Those guys are all legends. You're talking about the top of the field. Robin Williams is one of the greatest comedians ever, I think, and a great dramatic actor. I mean, in something like Good Will Hunting, I mean, his or Good Morning Vietnam or Dead Poet Society, his dramatic acting is as good as anyone's, really. So
with Robin Williams, I could not agree more. I'm a big horror buff, and I watched him in 1 Hour Photo, and that just showed me a side of Robin Williams that I'd never seen before. That he was able to portray, a stalker and a killer so well. And I just thought, wow, this guy, he's the soundtrack of my comedy growing up. Obviously the genie in Aladdin cannot be replaced. That's one of his great roles. And obviously, Flubber and all of his comedic roles. And then he does something like 1 Hour Photo, or even Patch Adams was one of the greatest roles I saw him in too. He has so much range for such a talented man. It's, movies have not been the same since we lost him.
Yeah.
100%. And I love that 1 Hour Photo too. That is true. That was impressive. Sometimes you see these roles. It was like, well, what's his name? Jamie Foxx when he was in Django Unchained. I didn't think, he's a comedian and he has done some dramatic roles, but I didn't know if he could play that kind of role.
Yeah.
And he did a great job in that. It was excellent, But yeah,
Oh,
Robin Williams.
Yeah.
Wait, did I say Jamie? Was Jamie Foxx in that? Yeah, I think it was.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, no,
I love when I see that.
Yeah, I had an old friend had a run in with Robin Williams back in the 80s. Out I think it was in San Francisco or something. And guy I know just saw Robin Williams jogging down the street. It's like trying to lose weight for a role or something. And my mate just blurted out, "Geez, you put on a lot of weight." And Robin Williams just looking, "F you, man!" And just screamed at him. And then later that night, my mate goes into a comedy club, and there's Robin Williams on the stage doing improv stand-up, and he sees my mate and goes, "You see this guy here? This Australian guy?" And just did like a 45-minute bit on Australia, and then my mate just kind of snuck out the back.
Wow, that is amazing, though. That's legendary. He got roasted by Robin Williams. He roasted him on the street, and then he got roasted in the club.
Yeah.
Oh man, he should have recorded that. That goes down.
Yeah.
I would love that. It's like getting roasted by Don Rickles.
Yeah.
Everyone wanted to get roasted. And luckily I at least got to see him, live before he passed, because he was one of my favorites of all time. legend.
Yeah, yeah,
You know, people love to get roasted by him just because he's Don Rickles. You know.
yeah. Awesome. Well, let's get back on your cover. So who did the cover? Did you
Sure.
reach out to someone? How'd you go about it?
Yes. Yeah. I found somebody on Reedsy. Okay. And do you want his name or
Oh no, just,
I don't
yeah,
know?
whatever you wanna. If you
Yeah.
wanna plug him, you're welcome to plug him.
Yeah. His name's Ian Koviak, and there's a site called Reedsy. I
Yeah,
don't know if you're familiar with it,
yeah, I've heard of it.
but you can contract um, people to do a job for you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
For example, a cover design or a book layout. And for this particular one, because this book I had an indie publisher, so they did it.
yeah.
They're called 10th Street Press. Actually, it's in Australia, this 10th Street Press. It's
There you
small,
go.
Oh
but it's
wow.
actually Australia. Yeah. So, and this one is my own publication.
Yeah,
It's called Strange
yeah,
Rebel Press, but it's a name I made up. I'm not gonna lie to you guys. But
Mhm.
so I just went on Reedsy and you can hire someone
yeah.
and you can work out your own deal. Um, and when he made a few prototypes before I hired someone, and I love them. It was close to this, and I thought it was great. So that's how I chose
Mhm.
him.
And it's interesting you've got the crocodile on that one and not on the one the Australian did.
Oh yeah, that is a
Yeah.
very random occurrence. That's
Yes.
true. That's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you guys have so many of those over there, right? Do you?
Yeah. Up north, up north. We're down mid. I mean, Sydney's kind of the middle of the East Coast.
Right.
Um,
Well, then
but
you got the Crocodile Dundee is the obvious one. That
yeah,
guy, the
yeah,
crocodile, and what's his name? The other dude, Steve Irwin. That guy was
yep,
an Aussie, wasn't he?
yeah, yes,
Yeah.
yeah. One of our legends. It was. I had a friend over from America at that time when he passed away, and he couldn't understand because we always took the piss out of Steve Irwin. It was what we did. It was the thing to
Yeah,
do. Take
sure,
the piss out of Steve Irwin. And then when he died, we were all sad. He's like, I thought you hated him. I go, this is the Australian humor, man. It's we take the
sure,
piss,
sure,
but we respect people enough to take the piss.
sure, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel the same way about my mom, you know? I take the piss out of her. Then she died. I was like, ah, man, I was a little too harsh on her, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
Yeah, damn. So then you kind of like regret it. You're like,
Yeah.
damn. Or my friend too. Anytime you do that, then you have a friend that dies. The last conversation, you're like, you're busting his chops
Yeah.
and but then you got to remember, hey, he wanted it. He called me up. So he had to
Yeah.
expect
Yeah.
me to but then you're like, oh man, I should have said something nice
Yeah.
right before he croaked. He got a tumor in his brain. I didn't know about it, and then you're like, God, I don't know. So that's just my Jewish guilt. But anyway, so
I
um,
got I got a question about your comedy side of things, if that's okay.
Yeah, go for it.
oh sure.
Um, so obviously you said Robin Williams was one of your
Oh,
inspirations. So who are your inspirations when you were growing up in terms of comedy and even now? Like who are some of your favorite comedians that make you laugh and that inspire you to become a comedian?
right. There's so many. And that's why where it gets hard. But I would definitely put up when people ask me that, I always say probably the first one is got to be Woody Allen. Okay,
Mhm.
just because some people don't know that he did stand up before he made his movies. But
Mhm.
his
Yeah.
movies, his stand up, his writing, I've always he was like my first obsession outside of Jim Morrison. I've had a few Nietzsche. There was a few that I've over the years I switched. Okay, like this is my new obsession. Kubrick, but Woody Allen for sure. When I got into comedy, if I didn't watch Woody Allen movies, okay, I don't think I would have ever even tried comedy or had that sensibility. And it kind of developed with me. I used to do comedic writing. Same with writing. It was just that I was such a fan of his movies and his stand up too, everything he does, his books. But so I know there's the whole scandal, but I won't even touch that. I think he's innocent. Regardless of that, uh, his sensibility and his influence was paramount to me. I think my comedic style changed over time, and it's different than him. But just in terms of someone that where I was like, wow, yeah, that was that. And then as it grew, there's so many others like Rodney Dangerfield. Sacha Baron Cohen is up there because I love characters and I love that stuff. Who else? There's so many, for me, like Stephen Wright. But a lot of those I wouldn't say are my style. But I would say for working now, the people that I think are on the top, like current, and Don Rickles, of course, I'm sorry, he's got to be up there.
Yes.
Love that improvisational roasting, and I do some of that in my own act. I really try to be in the moment a lot and go off script. Not that I don't have the material, I do that too, but I like to. It depends on the room and the situation. But yeah, I would say probably my favorite working today is Louis C.K. It's an obvious one, but just his material is so great and his persona is so strong and he's prolific and just, I think the best working today. So, but yeah, there's been so many. Carlin, I mean, Richard Jenny. I could go through like thousands really that I thought. And then there's a lot that you wouldn't know, like people that aren't famous, but that I met in New York or were influenced by. So,
Excellent.
So, what are you working on at the moment? Got any projects coming up?
well, outside of doing the stand-up gigs and I'm going to do well, with this book. I have a book signing coming up at a local bookstore called Dee Dee's Bookstore in Trustville, and I'm doing this Impact Book Festival. That's in May. I forgot the date, May 14th, and then June 14th, I'm doing Impact Book Festival. I'm doing a lecture and presenting my book, and we do shows. I'm doing shows down here in different areas, all through the Southeast. I got a bunch coming up, but check my calendar. And what else in terms of side projects? I got a short film called Sorry Mom. And as I mentioned, my mother passed away, so it's a little bit there's a personal element of it coming to terms with your mother's, but it's actually comedy. It's like a dramedy,
Yeah.
Because it's the it's a short film, the dynamic between a character and his mother, his overbearing, controlling mother, and him being kind of like the wayward son
Yeah.
that shocks and appalls her in every way. And so yeah, that's gonna be that I'm almost finished with, and I'm trying to put in a few little film festivals and stuff like that. So that's another project. Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, I want to save some of the good stuff for our Patreon.
Mhm.
So just tell our non-Patreons where they can follow you, where they can your website, your socials, and all that stuff.
Mhm. Yeah, so all my socials now are at Nagin, please. Okay, it's the N word you can say. I know you white guys in Australia, you want to say that word, but Nagin, please. Okay, don't say the other. So and by the way, black hosts they bring me up to like give it up for my Nagin, like something like that.
Yeah.
This Nagin's crazy.
Yeah.
The white hosts are like, give it up for Matt N-word, give it up for that guy. But yeah, so Nagin, please, is where I'm at. My last name is Nagin, Nagin, please. And you can see that on IG, TikTok, YouTube. I'm even on Cameo now. Not that I have many. I do get a few on there, random ones. So you can find me around. MattNagin.com is my website. Check out what's going on there in that crazy land. And thank you very much.
All right, guys, thetrueandthefictional at gmail.com if you want to reach out. All our socials are down below. Check out our sponsors, Rebecca Cassells, Martin Kearns. And let's dive into the Patreon. What would be your sitcom? What would be your Seinfeld? What would be your Everybody Loves Raymond? What would be your sitcom?
This book is actually really entertaining. I got it at a local bookshop, and it's about this worm up this guy's ass. it's creating little books. It's actually writing books. And these billionaires want to pay him to produce little books out of his ass.
That's probably one of the best answers we've had, because a lot of people we have on here combine two authors of the same genre because they want to see like two ultimate, like say fantasy writers go together. But
yo, that is a great idea. That's great merch. The only thing I can remember is the worm. It's gonna come to me, and I'll send it to you later.
That's all we're thinking about. All we're thinking about is the worm right now. That's